falsely to the actions of Israel. You're fucking doing it. There's no hope. There's no way to save these motherfuckers, bro. It's over.
The New York Times is one of the most popular publications in the world and the paper of
Here's
record
Noah
for the
Samsen talking about manufacturing consent for the genocide.
United States. It's also run cover for Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. It's done this with things like laundering atrocity propaganda, passively framing Israel's war crimes, deliberately avoiding the use of crucial descriptive words like genocide, and more. Today, we're going to get a small taste of that by reading through one of their beautiful pieces of journalism, an article published on March 15th titled, "Israel Keeps Up Attacks in Gaza Despite Truce." Now already you may notice a bit of a problem with the headline. There's a truce, they say, but Israel is also conducting attacks in Gaza.
Yeah, that was amazing. Guardian wrote that as well. Ceasefire on shaky grounds as Palestinians exist and Israelis keep bombing them. Well, that's not a ceasefire then. It seems like Israel is violating said ceasefire, and it seems like you're defending Israel's violation of said ceasefire. I'm so for real on this. Obviously, this is not at this stage. It's not even remotely consequential because like the immediate harm being done is to the Palestinian population. And the harm being done in the United States of America is to, you know, people who are pro-Palestinian, especially if they're non-citizens, as we have seen so far. Having said that, if you think that the Trump administration is not going to go after bad Jews, okay, anti-Zionists, and then go after all Jews, you're a fucking moron, okay? There's not enough money in the Sheldon Adelson, Miriam Adelson camp for the growing anti-Semitic fascist movement in this country, okay? You are not aware of how dangerous things are fucking becoming. And every single moment that you do not detangle Israel from Judaism is another moment where you got 1,000 new people that are like, okay, well, if they say so. Like, it blows my mind. It fucking blows my mind that prominent figures, Jewish, Christian alike, that are pro-Israel are running defense for Israel by saying, no, this is, Jews love doing this. This is for Jews. This is for all Jews. We have to keep killing these babies. Like, this is just for, like, it's like taking ownership over blood libel. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It blows my mind. You have to get your fucking head out of the sand, man. You have to. It's going to turn. If you don't recognize that, you are fucking delusional. Chuck Schumer, it's not a genocide. Calling it a genocide is anti-Semitic. The UN is anti-Semitic. College protest is anti-Semitic. Mahmoud Khalil should be deported. You just have to justify it. Yeah. The one that bothers me most is genocide. Genocide is described as a country or some group ties to wipe out the whole race of people, a whole nationality of people. So if Israel was not provoked and just invaded Gaza and shot at random Palestinians, Gazans, that would be genocide. Dude, 76 years of military occupation is not considered a provocation? Like, what the fuck are you saying? Israel has done October 7 tenfold since its inception. Israel quite literally did October 7 tenfold during the Nakba. What the fuck are you saying? You don't need to be a historian to understand that. Most normal people even look at post-October 7 and Israel's retaliation and go, yeah, that's fucking crazy. Where does it benefit him lying about this, assuming he knows exactly what he's doing? What do you mean? He believes it. Chuck Schumer is a fucking pro-Israel congressperson. He is like unimaginably pro-Israel. That's it. That's literally it. He like truly thinks that these Arab dogs deserve to be fucking ritualistically humiliated and systematically oppressed by an apartheid regime. That's it. It's denial. That's purely it. A lifetime of social conditioning and real fucking hatred against Arabs and Muslims in general. That's not what happened. In fact, the opposite happened. And Hamas is much closer to genocidal than Israel. No, the fuck it's not. No, the fuck it's not. Hamas, okay, by pure numbers, I'm going to repeat this one more time because I've talked about this quite a bit for liberals to understand. Hamas, by pure numbers of targeting civilians versus enemy combatants, is not even on the same fucking playing field as the Israeli occupying force. Okay? They're not. It's like a humanitarian aid organization in comparison to what Israel has done. Just in this iteration alone. This is before factoring in 76 years of apartheid. What the fuck are you saying? If you have a real humanitarian perspective, if you're a real pacifist, okay, and you say it is completely unacceptable to target civilians, no matter what, then you have to be advocating for what you are advocating for Hamas tenfold against Israel. But you're not, because you don't care about humans across the board. You care about certain humans. That's it. Only some people are real people in the eyes of those who defend Israel. That's the difference. That's the fucking difference. And having said that, that is if Hamas and Israel were operating on the same playing field of morality. They're not. One is a militant resistance group that is born out of being fucking orphaned by the apartheid settler colony. What the fuck are we saying? What are we talking about even? They're not even on the same playing field. There would be no Hamas if Israel was not fucking brutalizing Palestinians every single day. On a good day, it is an apartheid. Apartheid needs constant militarization, constant violence to uphold an apartheid. That's how you do it. There's no other way to do it. You can't just like do a tickle party and maintain an apartheid. It doesn't work that way. And I told Netanyahu, I said to him what I thought. You got to reduce the number of casualties and make sure aid gets in and stuff like that. Yeah, you don't give a fuck about that, obviously. Here's the difficulty. Hamas is a different way of waging warfare, of using innocent Gaza as human shield. Still, they put rockets in hospitals. They put their military supplies in schools. What is a country supposed to do when rockets are being fired from a school? Yeah, blow up the school, of course. Duh. So Israel's been in a much more difficult position because of what Hamas did. And it's not that Israel's above criticism. Of course it's not above criticism. Yeah, it seems like you think Israel's above criticism, dumb fuck. Okay? But Hamas, I'm sorry, it matters so much to me. I feel so deeply about it. No one blames Hamas. I mean, the news reports every day for a while show Palestinians being hurt and killed. I see the pictures of a little Palestinian boy without a leg, or one that sticks in my head. There's this little girl, like 11, 12, crying because her parents were both killed. I ache for that. No, you don't. No, you don't. But on the news, they never mention that Hamas used the Palestinian people as human shields. First of all, they do. Okay? It's a fucking lie, and the monsters in mainstream media still do it. Okay? It's our bombs that you gladly fucking send over to Israel, knowing full well that it's going to laser a child that actually kills that child's family. You're a fucking animal. God, I do, to a certain degree, respect when people who are pro-Israel at least try to handle the matter in an honest fashion. I appreciate and welcome people like Chuck Schumer and people like John Fetterman, at the very least, being honest about their fucking brutality. Okay? Being like, oh, you don't understand. It's just like there's human shields. We got to fucking kill some of these children, man. It is what it is. But we got to limit the number of children you're killing. Come on, Israel. I say it all the time. Yeah, but it's also, at the end of the day, still Hamas's fault. It's Hamas. Hamas's existence justifies genocide. How did Hamas came to be? Oh, don't ask that question. You're being kind of anti-Semitic for asking that question. Because everything that Israel does, it does for Judaism, of course. How the fuck do you expect people to not be anti-Semitic when you do this all the fucking time? Of course, people who already operate with nascent anti-Semitism just kind of out there unchecked are going to look at this and be like, all right, well, I guess fucking you're right. I guess this is for Judaism. Here it is. Chuck Schumer, he's Jewish, the leader of the Democratic Party, agreeing with Donald Trump on a lot of this stuff. Oh, I will say it's a word that the UN Special Committee has used. Please, the UN has been anti-Israel, anti-Semitically against Israel. Daniel Patrick Moynihan was my idol. He became famous when in 1976, they tried to pass a resolution, Zionism is racism. To say that the Jewish people should not have a state when every other people should have a state is anti-Semitism. The old double standard, ipso facto. And the international organizations, I have no faith in them being fair. These same international organizations, which, by the way, literally, like, oh my God. There are Jewish people that work in these international organizations. There are Jews who are loudly and proudly anti-genocide, anti-Zionist. Shut the fuck up, you fucking dumbass. Oh my God. Oh, everybody else gets to have an ethno-state. Why no ethno-state for the Jews? Oh my God. These same international organizations, when horrible things go on in Darfur or China or wherever, they look the other way. No, they don't. No, they don't. They literally do not. Oh my God. You just don't care when they report on that stuff because they're going along with what the State Department is also going along with. What do you make of what happened last weekend when the ICE arrested Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia graduate who was a Palestinian activist, a green card holder who was one of the few participants in last year's campus protest to identify himself publicly? Apparently, Trump has made good on his campaign pledge and is set to deport him because of his participation. I don't know all the details yet. They're trying to come out, and there will be a court case which will determine it. If he broke the law, he should be deported. If he didn't break the law and just peacefully protested, he should not be deported. It's plain and simple. I'm curious about how you think that how the protest should be addressed, considering the context of what you just said. The Trump admin just announced it's pulling $400 million in funding from Columbia University, given the reason as relentless violence, intimidation, and anti-Semitic harassment. I'm wondering what you make of that. Columbia did not do enough. So it's good that Trump is punishing them. International law is anti-Semitic. UN is anti-Semitic. Trump's actions of taking away $400 million in grants from Columbia is kind of on Columbia because they didn't actually follow through on they shit that they didn't actually follow through on protecting Jewish students, I guess. Hold on. What the fuck is this? And believe me, I criticize them. And believe me, I believe in free speech. No, you don't. I believe in right to protest. No, you don't. As you read in my book. Fuck, you're part of my the Vietnam War. I say to some people, if I were your age, I'd be protesting something or other. What would you be protesting if you were their age? Would you be protesting against Israel? Because that's the point of consideration here. Yeah. The irony, of course, by the way, the Columbia student leader who was fired is Grant Minor, who is fucking Jewish. The leader of the UAW student group last week being expelled from Columbia for protesting the U.S.-backed genocide in Gaza, not a peep about this in the fucking news, by the way, is Jewish. Grant Minor is Jewish. Okay? But that kind of goes along, that kind of breaks the fucking mainstream narrative, so they can't even fucking say that. As president of SW Columbia, Student Workers of Columbia, Columbia Student Workers Union. I was also fired from my job. The Trump administration is pushing the narrative. Here's the real story. Thousands of students across the country have been exercising our First Amendment rights to oppose genocide. Standing against genocide is not just a moral imperative. It's an act of anti-racism and solidarity. Columbia's response, expulsions, suspensions, and retaliation. The real Donald Trump administration claims the student movement for Palestine is anti-Semitic and violent. They sent the DOJ to crack down on universities, kidnap Mahmoud Khalil and other students, and they're trying to silence us with fear. I'm Jewish. I work in Jewish studies, and I am not alone in opposing the ongoing genocide. The Jewish people know what genocide is. That's why so many of us, alongside people of all backgrounds, are standing up against what is happening in Palestine. I want to make something clear here, okay? And I say this about every other marginalized identity or group that I advocate for in terms of their, civil liberties, their rights, and the like, okay? Even if 100% of all Jews in America were unconditionally in defense of Israel's genocide, okay? And they were like, no, it's awesome, it's for Judaism, I would still stand against it. And I would still separate Israel from Judaism. Okay? Because it's not correct. A state does not do religious actions like this. That's not a real thing. It's bullshit. Because I don't advocate against Israel's actions and separate what Israel's doing from Judaism because I really want Jews to like me or whatever the fuck, okay? I do it because it's incorrect. Conflating a religion and the state actions is a very damaging conflation. Just like the false association with Islam and ISIS was incredibly damaging and was used as a weapon of propaganda here in the Western world to say all Muslims are responsible for ISIS, when in fact ISIS is, in many respects, a Western-born invention backed by Western powers, or at least their subsidiaries in the region like Turkey, and killed overwhelmingly Muslims. Muslims are not pro-ISIS. And yet every orifice, every fucking media entity constantly made this conflation. And now, because Israel is our ally, people are making that same conflation for Israel and Judaism. And it blows my fucking mind. Because when people are taught that Israel is a Jewish state, is the Jewish state, and it has to do all of its violence for Judaism, at the behest of Judaism, and all Jews love it, you are just making people anti-Semitic. You are teaching people to be fucking anti-Semitic. Because no matter how bloodthirsty people are, not every single person is a fucking Asmongold supporter who's just going to fucking fly off on whatever the hell Donald Trump is saying and go, yeah, that's based, no matter how violent or abhorrent it is. People have the capacity to see dead children in bags that their parents are fucking carrying out of a destroyed building and go, that's really fucked up. That's the most fucked up thing I've ever goddamn seen. And if you associate that fucked up action with Judaism, you are doing literal negative propaganda for Jews, okay? It's insane. No race of people are monolithic. If they were, then the Zionist project would have never allowed for anti-Zionists to exist. Because goddamn, in the past, I would say fucking 4 decades, Israel has tried real fucking hard to monolithize Jews in the Western world. They have tried so fucking hard. Ask the Jewish Hasanabi heads in here, and they will tell you their own personal experiences. Every fucking Jewish social organization revolves around defending Israel, teaching children at a very early age that like Israel's the most moral nation. And all of Israel's enemies are anti-Semitic, and you should be afraid of them. And Holocaust too will happen if Israel doesn't exist as an apartheid state. If Jews were a fucking monolith, then Israel wouldn't need to propagandize consistently in the Western world. Israel wouldn't actively try to change Judaism into a for secular Jews especially into like this Zionist interpretation, an interpretation that entirely revolves around the settler colonial project of Israel existing on top of Palestinian corpses, by the way. No group of people, no ethnic group of people, or no religion is a fucking monolith. Yeah, you got fucking, exactly. You have Holocaust museums celebrating Israel's actions. Like, it's insane. Oh. As someone who's trying to learn, can you help me better understand this whole thing with people like Schumer labeling Hamas as a terrorist group, using Hamas as a scapegoat to justify the genocide? I've been talking to someone in chat about AIPAC, and I heard a lot about that. AIPAC is the American Israeli Political Action Committee. It's a lobbying group comprised of American Jews. So it gets to not operate as a foreign lobby, even though it is literally a fucking foreign lobby for a foreign state, the state of Israel. It spends a lot of money to ensure that congresspersons are unconditionally pro-Israel. They will dump like tens of millions of dollars into even fucking primaries, as they did in this last election cycle, to oust any candidate that has ever spoken out against Israel. It is a lobby for a foreign nation. And yet, in the United States of America, it doesn't have to operate as a lobby for a foreign nation. It can engage in any sort of electioneering or any sort of election interference at the behest of a foreign nation. So America doesn't control Israel? No, America does, at the end of the day, control Israel. Because without American dollars, Israel would not fucking exist, okay? Without American support, Israel would not exist. What are you talking about? Even with American support, Israel's security boundaries were penetrated by Iran and by fucking Yemen, which is even crazier. Israel is a very important vestige of American empire, and before that, British Empire too. That's what its inception was. Anyway, in its proudest moments, the labor movement has stood firmly on the side of the oppressed and therefore on the side of justice. As president of Student Workers of Colombia, I had an even greater responsibility to stand with my members who were beaten by the police just for protesting. Colombia has caved to Trump's demands at every turn. They have brought the NYPD onto campus to brutalize the students. Now they've let DHS terrorize the students in their own dorms. Thank you, The Zip, for 50 community gifted subs. Our union is here. It's not as simple as America controls Israel. It's a two-way street. Of course, America could remove funding, but they will never, because the two states are intrinsically bound. Saying one controls the other is grossly reductive and erases half a century of insane mutual espionage, money and interest, blackmail, and partnership. I 100% agree with what you just said. Yes, of course, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. That's why Israel gets to do things that other favored client states don't get to do. But at the end of that relationship, the one that holds all the cards, to use a Trumpism here, is the United States of America. You understand? Israel and the United States of America having a mutually beneficial partnership in the eyes of the State Department does not change this dynamic. And as a matter of fact, there are naysayers against Israel, both in the CIA and also in the State Department as a whole. But those naysayers have completely lost. They have no motion. They have no way of controlling the conversation, because those guys who also want to maintain American empire, make no mistake, they're not good guys at all. They understand that letting Israel run loose in this region like our fucking violent, belligerent attack dog is actually going to come back to the United States of America tenfold in terms of being a destabilizing power. It is ripping through American hegemonic status. It is destroying it in the eyes of even our Western allies at this point. Everyone can see it, especially because it's happening in the backdrop of Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Hello, I'm the United States. And I'm Israel. With you behind me, I can do whatever I want. Well, I want you. Take me. No, this is wrong. We both have the same father, Satan. I don't care. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, Judeo-Christian false God. Hello.
It's funny because, like, now that's, you know, now people be like, this is the most anti-Semitic thing I've ever heard in my entire life. How dare you laugh at this? This is anti-Semitism across the board. Like, yeah, it is. It is an anti-Semitic joke, but it is a joke. But you can't even fucking laugh at a joke like that now because there are real, tangible consequences about jokes like that. Yeah, Seth is Jewish. I know. I think, yeah, he is. Now he's going to be departed. Deported, not departed. Sorry. Anti-Semitism is a very dangerous form of bigotry, and accusations of such are taken very seriously. Israel ties itself to Judaism to weaponize that label, and it ironically lessens the power of the word. I fear a future where anti-Semitism is not taken seriously anymore, and Nazis, even normal people, are just casually anti-Semitic. We are living in that world right now. You should be fearful. We are quite literally living in that world. That is the world we're living in. It still has some kind of emotion, but I think the Trump administration is going to fucking ruin that or destroy it in its entirety. I'm telling you right now, man. I'm telling you right now. The very fact that, like, you're sounding kind of dumb today, bro. Get some rest. Thanks, man. It's wild that this is Chuck Schumer talking about like a Nazi style takeover of institutes of higher learning that are already completely pro-Israel to begin with, like with very limited criticisms of Israel that is already allowed, right? Like, it's not anti-Semitism that people are afraid of at these institutions. It's anti-Israel sentiment. They are more afraid of that than anti-Semitism. That much is clear, because even in Colombia, in and of itself, a great example of this is the fucking neo-Nazi protester was captured on camera saying Jews will not replace us, was allowed to fucking graduate from Colombia. They actually put him on remote learning because he was in danger for his own safety. After all of that, they revoked the diplomas of fucking students for the crime of protesting against Israel. The same institution that allows Nazis to come and speak on campus. The same institution that literally allowed a Nazi to fucking go and get his diploma after being caught at Charlottesville. It's not the first time that Colombia has done this. They did this to anti-fascist, anti-Nazi protesters in the 30s as well, for the record. People are fucking delusional. Colombia did not do enough. I criticize them, and I believe in free speech. Okay, so I get that, and I love it, and it's about America. But when it shades over to violence and anti-Semitism, the colleges have to do something, and a lot of them didn't do enough. They shrugged their shoulders, looked the other way. Colombia among them. Yeah, dude, they didn't do enough. They did. They allowed the fucking NYPD anti-terrorism unit to destroy the student movement, okay? He's like, oh yeah, when we were protesting against Vietnam War, that was different. No, it wasn't. It was infinitely more violent. Student protest movements during the Vietnam anti-war protests were infinitely more radical than the student protest movements now. They shrugged their shoulders, looked the other way, Colombia among them. So what did they do? And also, here's the side of this, okay? And I truly believe this. There's a reason why I say all this stuff and people consider it to be radical. Some people work actively, tirelessly to make it seem like I'm saying some really insane, really radical things. I'm an Islamist fundamentalist, yada, yada, yada. I'm a terrorist, right? And then they get surprised when they're like, why is the New Yorker writing a fucking, puff piece on this person? Or why is NPR Boston doing a puff piece on this person? Are they not like researching this stuff? No, dude. It's because they do hear what I have to say and they understand what I'm talking about. And regardless of the overarching outlook of a lot of these mainstream newspapers and organizations and academia as well, behind closed doors, they fucking get it. Okay? Behind closed doors, unless someone is just like the most vicious pro-Israel person you've ever fucking encountered, they do kind of understand what these fucking students are protesting. Yes, they still have to pay the piper. Yes, they still have to say, yeah, you're right, Congress. We're so sorry. We will do better. We will do more. But they know that what the fucking students are saying and doing is not unfathomable or unconscionable. Just like people know what the fuck I'm saying is not insane, no matter how hard people try to make it seem as such. And a big part of that is because post-October 7, anyone and everyone that said Israel is in the wrong for maintaining a fucking apartheid state was instantly branded a fucking terrorist. That's it. This is what I mean when I say like the anti-Semitism deflection shield doesn't work anymore because it's not being used against actual anti-Semites. People can see when most normal people who are not the most parasocial fucking freaks you've ever encountered look to a guy like Ethan Klein, who has been on an extended crash out for what, fucking half a year at this point, whose only commentary on Israel-Palestine is just like viciously smearing anyone who's pro-Palestinian, including Jews, by the way, okay, calling them token Jews, just like deeply anti-Semitic shit at that point. And then claiming that he is moralizing this conquest because he wants to be a person who is going after anti-Semites. Okay? You got the Theo Von podcast. Theo Von has Candace Owens, who has said deeply anti-Semitic things, including Hitler just wanted to make Germany great. Like, that's something that Candace Owens did, right? And then got hired by Daily Wire and only got fired by Daily Wire because she was not only anti-Semitic, but also anti-Israel. That's the real reason why she got fired. They knew she was anti-Semitic when they hired her, right? That person gets on Theo Von, and they don't fucking talk about it. Ethan doesn't talk about that. He talks about me going on Theo Von and being like, can't believe Hassan, a radical terrorist, anti-Semite, was on Theo Von. Everybody go and inform Theo Von that he had this guest on. Well, you clearly don't fucking care about anti-Semitism then, dumbass. The fuck are you talking about? That's the point. And people see that. Maybe not like the most parasocial people, but most normal people look at that and go, wait a minute, your conquest is against anti-Semites? And that's why you're yelling at Theo for having Hassan on. I've heard Hassan talk about Judaism not being tied to Israel a million times over and actively speak out against anti-Semitism a million times over. But then you don't have a fraction of the smoke for like real anti-Semites. What the fuck is that? This loser needs to get taken off Twitch permanently. It's bullshit. Gaza getirdiler anne. Yok bir şey. All right. Now on that note, Let's get to Noah Samsen, manufacturing consent for genocide. Is there TOS on here?
Gaza. So is there a truce or is there not one? If there is a truce, the correct word to use in regards to Israel's conduct is violates. Israel violates the truce by attacking Gaza. An attack on Gaza is a violation of the ceasefire. Any of those would do, anything other than what is written here. Israeli forces killed at
I LARPed to someone who was on the fence about hating you, and if you are anti-Semitic and do just link shit that just wasn't anti-Semitic at all.
least 9 Palestinians in Gaza in strikes on Saturday, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, the latest in a string of Israeli attacks on the enclave that have kept up despite a roughly 2-month-old truce with Hamas. Okay, wait, so not only did Israel violate the ceasefire, but in doing so, they killed 9 people. Why is this mass killing event being downgraded to simply an attack in the headline? A non-ceasefire violating attack at that? Since the ceasefire went into effect in mid-January, the military has conducted constant strikes in Gaza. Israel has accused militants of threatening its forces by laying explosive devices, flying drones, or by approaching where Israeli troops are deployed. Hamas has claimed those attacks have killed more than 150 people since the truce took effect, at least some of them civilians. And it has...
I think if Israel, instead of Israel, our favorite colonial state was instead Liberia, we'd be talking about anti-black racism and not anti-Semitism. Is the fact that the government is using anti-Semitism as a weapon against leftists that makes it topical? What? The only Jews in the U.S. are in danger are the ones outwardly supporting Palestine law. Anti-Semitism is an outmoded perspective that fuels Jewish exceptionalism. What? But there is no proven material basis for that threat. In fact, this new fascism is explicitly Zionist. It's discrimination based on ideology, not Jewish ethnicity. I mean, this person is not incorrect. Yes, the only Jews straightforwardly that are under attack in the United States right now, like the ones that are directly under fire are anti-Zionist Jews. Those are the ones who are getting arrested. We just showed you Grant Minor, the fucking leader of the student movement, who just got fired by Columbia. He's Jewish. All right, 204 TOS. All right.
Has accused Israel of repeatedly violating the agreement by continuing military operations. So this is a good example of kind of one of the central issues in this coverage, which is that the claims from both Hamas and Israel are being given the same weight in this debate going on in the article, but only one of the figures cited here can actually be confirmed. When Hamas claims that 150 people have been killed, this is a statement of fact. Israel has killed over 150 Palestinians, the vast majority of whom are civilians, including a number of children. We have the names, the video and photographic evidence of their killings, and the medical records. When Israel says that its troops...
Sorry. There's the other thing, by the way. Where is it? There's someone else that said, Jews have a valid claim to being fearful. Can we not do that rhetoric? Anti-Semitism is prevalent for sure, and Jews are valid and feeling unsafe in America. Yes. Okay, I understand that. Except the way that this conversation plays out in mainstream media is that Jewish people are forward, specifically as pawns in the process, to say, my feelings were hurt on campus. And your feelings hurting on campus because the association that you have personally made with Israel is now making you feel bad when someone says, that's a fucking baby murder state that you are defending, then that doesn't fucking matter. Like, fuck your feelings in that situation. We're not talking about like straight up neo-Nazis doing hate crimes against Jewish people. We're talking about this in the context of how pro-Palestinian thought and pro-Palestinian protests are directly under fire. I completely agree with you, but you respond to a chatter saying only pro-Palestinian Jews are unsafe, which is really not really true. No. The overwhelming majority of Jewish people that are directly under fire from organizations, from like actual institutions, if not damn near entirety, are anti-Zionist Jews. If we're talking about individualized violence, like the Jews that are being targeted by the state are not fucking pro-Israeli Jews. The Jews that are being targeted by the state are anti-Zionist Jews. That is a directly anti-Semitic incident, an anti-Semitic process that should terrify everyone.
were threatened, Israel provides no evidence for this claim. And yet, the New York Times reports it as if it's on par with the claims made by Hamas, claims which have evidentiary backing. On Saturday, the Israeli military said it struck 2 militants who were operating a drone that posed a threat, and then struck a vehicle carrying others who had arrived to collect the drone operating equipment. It did not elaborate on how they posed a threat to Israeli troops. Oh, okay. Well, this would be good to lead with, I think, the fact that Israel gave no evidence or even explanation as to why they killed 9 Palestinians with an airstrike during a ceasefire. Ismail Thawabte, the Director General of the Hamas-controlled government media office in Gaza, said the 9 Palestinians...
Look up the UNRWA and what Palestinian children say about Jerusalem. Yes, dude, you're right. Palestinian children they learn to hate Jews at UNRWA schools. You're right. That's why we should blow up all the UNRWA schools. Yeah. Why? Because I saw a video of fucking 12-year-olds being anti-Semitic. Shut the fuck up, dumbass. I've seen all the videos, okay? I don't give a shit. What do you think is worse? A 12-year-old in a fucking captive open-air prison being like, yeah, one day, inshallah, we'll take over Jerusalem again. It'll be ours. We'll rid it from the hands of the Jews. Or like bombing the fucking school and killing that child. What do you think is worse? Jesus Christ. How the fuck do people not understand that? Like, how do they not, how do people not comprehend that? Terror, baby. These are babies of terror. They are learning to hate Israel and Jews at an early age at UNRWA facilities. UNRWA is also a terror educational facility. We must blow them up. They're not even arguing there's no genocide, just saying they deserved it. Exactly. Damn, I quit, dude. You found a video of an UNRWA school where 12-year-olds were saying they hate Jews. We should kill all the Palestinians then. My bad. I had not seen that one video. Now you know the videos I have seen of schools? Yeah, I've seen the schools being blown up with my taxpayer-funded munitions. Okay? I think that is unconscionable. Significantly worse. The fuck are you saying? There's a very obvious reason why Palestinians learn to hate Israel, okay, and then associate Israel with Judaism, because the fucking Star of David is on the flag that's dropping a bomb on their school. The fuck do you mean? If your only interaction is a military that brands itself as the Jewish military that does everything at the behest of Judaism, falsely conflating Judaism with the actions of Israel, of course you're going to be like, yeah, I don't know. It seems like these guys fucking aren't the fans of me, and I kind of hate them. That's why it's always funny whenever people are bringing up like, oh, these babies, these terror babies, they have copy of Mein Kampf annotated. Look, we found this copy of Mein Kampf in a baby's crib. It's like, dude, you think a fucking 14-year-old Palestinian needs to read some random fucking German dipshit to learn about his hatred of Jewish people? Or do you think it literally comes from Israel saying, we're doing this for Judaism. We're killing you because of Judaism. Here is a fucking Star of David that we carved on the side of the face of a Palestinian captive. Here's a Star of David that we carved on the side of a fucking school, a former school that is now just rubble. The fuck? Here, we're putting up a menorah in the middle of fucking Gaza as we're doing a genocide. Where the fuck do you think they learned this behavior from? Dumbass. Like, how would you do? What would you do?
Palestinians killed in the strike were working for a charity. The identities and statuses of those killed could not be independently verified. So when Palestinians report evidence, the New York Times makes sure to designate their...
Why is this case not made in reverse? Are we going to pretend that Israel doesn't radicalize people? No, of course. I talk about that all the time. Everything Israel does is fucking projection. And this is projection too. when you are the violent settler colony, you have to actively dehumanize the indigenous population that you're destroying and keeping subservient through militant action. And that is actually what's going on. Israel is the party that fucking constantly has to teach its children to hate the Palestinians. Because if they didn't, if they were honest about their treatment of Palestinians, then young generations of Israelis would be like, what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? What is this shit? That's it. Of course, it's projection. It's pure projection. It's the state that has power that has to actively propagandize so that its citizens don't fucking rise up and say, what the hell are we doing? This is like insane levels of violence. Yeah. Here, who do you think? Who do you think is actively fucking dehumanizing Palestinians? Some Purim costumes from the Instagram story of photographer Alex Farfouri. That's a literal fucking baby. Dressed up as Hamas baby for Purim. Another pager-themed Purim costume, because what's funnier than one of the biggest and most sadistic terror attacks in history? Look, here, this is a celebration of Purim. Terror babies. Here, this is the real terror baby.
חג פורים אומנם יחל רק בעוד כחודש, אבל רומי ונועה כבר יודעות למה הן התחפשו השנה.
למה החלטתם להתחפש לסיירת גולני וסיירת גבעתי?
בעיקרון כל מה שהם עושים בחיים עכשיו זה להגן עלינו ולשמור עלינו. אז צריך ככה להראות את הגאווה של העם שלנו.
גם אחותי עכשיו בעזה, בגבעתי, ואני רוצה שהיא תראה.
זה חלום שלכם להיות אולי יום אחד חיילות קרביות?
ברור.
ברור, של כל אחד.
לשמור על המולדת שלנו.
שמירה על המולדת היא תמה מרכזית בתחפושות פורים 2025.
אני חייל טקטי, ורציתי את זה כי קודם כל זה תחפושת ממש ממש יפה. כאילו אני שומר על המדינה, ממש להרגיש את זה. אני שוטרת, אני בהפגנות, דואגת שהכל יהיה מסודר וזה, עוזרת למשפחות ולמפונים. אני חושבת שזה חשוב כי אנחנו בכל זאת עדיין במלחמה, וזה תפקידים שעוזרים לנו ומגנים עלינו. זה זכות להגן על המדינה. זה זכות, זה פרס.
באמת רואים עלייה בביקושים, אתה יודע, בעקבות זה שהילדים בבית, ורואים שאבא הולך למילואים, ואח במילואים, אז הביקוש בא מלמטה.
גם בפורים בשנה שעברה, ישראל הייתה במצב מלחמה. ועדיין נדמה כי בפורים הנוכחי, המציאות טיפה אופטימית יותר. אולי גם לנוכח חזרת החטופים.
אני חושבת ששנה שעברה היינו קצת יותר בשוק, אז אנחנו צריכים גם להפגין קצת אושר ושמחה. אני בטוחה שזה יעלה לכל חייל את החיוך על הפנים שהוא יראה אותנו ככה.
עכשיו שחוזרים החטופים, אתה חושב שזה באמת סוף סוף מחזיר את עם ישראל לשמחה גדולה?
לא. כי לא כולם חזרו עוד, ויש עוד את מי להחזיר, וזה לא ייגמר עד שהחטוף האחרון חוזר.
בבאר שבע, מעצבת האופנה ספיר חלמיש טורחת על תחפושת שמשלבת אלמנטים שונים ומגוונים שקשורים במלחמה ובחטופים.
מה שאתם רואים פה זה בעצם תחפושת של טייס. פה יש את הסמל של החטופים ואת הכיתוב, להחזיר אותם הביתה. פה יש לנו את החרב של חרבות ברזל, שזה בעצם השם של המלחמה. הכתר זה הנובה. מה שאתם רואים פה בעצם זה העצים שהיו שם במסיבה, והדיסקית של השבויים שלנו.
Dude, I'm sorry. Dude. It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. That is unironically one of the funniest aspects of like Israeli art is that because right-wingers are so mad, they're too mad to be funny, they're too mad to make art, that like an entire society that is primed to the gills of like with fascist propaganda will always end up making art like this. Yeah, it's like the MAGA ball gowns, exactly. It's just like, oh God. That's why the best piece of product that comes out of Israel is like anti-Semitic. Colombia, anti-Semitic. Oh, I'm going to Colombia anti-Semitic. I love Hamas. I love Hamas. It's my favorite. I'm a queer non-binary student at Columbia Anti-Semitic. Oh. It's so fucking ass. Your output, your cultural output is fucking ass, okay? Jesus Christ. Truly cursed shit. Yeah, here. 3 million views.
Hi everyone, we are live on YouTube with Columbia Anti-Semitic News. We're
Columbia Anti-Semitic News. Oh God, I love fascist art, dude. So good.
everyone is welcome. LGBTQH
H?
Hamas.
Yeah, I totally sim Hamas.
Yeah.
It's so trending right now.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Do you know why it's true? Because it rhymes. Just look at all this toxic Zionist propaganda. Kidnapped in Gaza. Does this look like Gaza to you?
Yeah, bro, I have no idea what Gaza looks like.
And they're smiling. Do hostages smile? Zionist liars.
Totally sus.
Yeah, Brant Gelman also did a bit with them. No way, this is real? No. You got to see this. You got to see what fascism does to art, okay?
Do they think we're stupid?
Stupid? I major in queer post-colonial astrology. Ew. Jews make the world dirty. And no, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm racist fluid.
Exactly. And now for a little break from all this activism, we want to say hello to our BFF,
Bestie freedom fighter.
Abu Fatwa in Gaza. Salam alaikum.
Alaykum as-salam, and inshallah, Allah will kill you all infidels.
Thank you so much for joining us. Love the
Who is this for? The entire population of Israel. That's who this is for. Dude, this bang. Dude, look at this. 3 million views. Whoever played the masked Hamasnik should receive an Oscar.
That piece, the all oppression shit.
Wait. Malcolm X said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. He's saying that. Bro. He's saying that as in like he's using the Malcolm X quote to talk about Israel and not in the, not against Hamas or anything, not against Palestinians. He's saying like, yeah. Let's keep going.
Very drip.
Mr. Fatwa, how are you? Are you safe?
Oh yes, I'm safe. I'm in a tunnel under the Gaza hospital. Above me, I have Allah and 2 million.
Yeah, he's like, they can't make a joke. The reason why they can't make a joke is because they're too busy trying to angrily shove fucking propaganda in here. Like, you can't make a joke like that.
And civilians protecting me.
Community is so important these days.
Do you need like humanitarian aid, food, fuel, medicine?
It's okay, I have everything. I'm only hungry for rockets.
As long as it's organic.
Yeah.
I wish I just could be there with you.
You can come to Gaza anytime and we will throw you from the roof, you homosexual dirt.
Do you hear? Bro, want to throw me a rooftop party?
They are so welcoming and inclusive.
So shukran. And you are also very welcome to come here to America.
We will come. First we finish with Israel, and America is next.
Great! So, I guess we'll see you soon.
Yes, it will be a blast.
Can't wait. It will be so multicultural.
Ya Allah, you are so stupid.
Thank you so much, Abu. We love you.
Won't even bother killing you. It's a waste of bullets.
Good vibes only.
It's better you just kill yourself.
Okay, bye.
Die.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be Jews free. Yeah, that sounds better.
It is better.
Come on, man. That's a banger, dude. Careful, brother. They might ban you for broadcasting terrorist propaganda like this. No. That's the beauty of this. You can do as much terrorism propaganda as you want, as long as it's like American terrorism propaganda or Israel terrorism propaganda. As long as it's like terrorism propaganda coming from a state actor aligned with the United States of America. This right here is just like straight up. This is a self-inflicted wound, okay? If Israel wasn't such a fucking firmly committed fascist nation, then they could have better art, but they can't. Destined to eat dog shit food and destined to fucking make dog shit art. Oh, anyway, I love that shit. Injected directly into my veins, dude.
Their status as a Hamas-controlled, Hamas being a U.S. designated terrorist organization, mind you. Terrorists are controlling this government media office. That's the implication whenever they use.
Oh, they're doing the Houthi-controlled hospitals now, too, by the way. That's the new meta. I like that because liberal media basically, made this position the normal position. Like, there's no more, like, Gazan Health Ministry. It's Hamas-controlled Gazan Health Ministry. Now they started doing it under the Trump regime, too. No, they're now saying Houthi-controlled health ministry. It's awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, tell me more about how different this is, you know? Tell me more about how different liberal media is under the Trump administration. Shouts out to Brandon for that one. The Houthi rebel-run health ministry says the death toll from the U.S. strikes on Yemen has climbed to 31, including women and children. Fantastic. Thank you, Associated Press. Doing a great job at journalism in a pivotal time when fascism is basically destroying this country as well.
Use this label, and that nothing can be verified independently. The IDF is, of course, absent from the U.S. list of terrorist organizations, despite its many terrorist actions. That's because the U.S. makes the list, and the U.S. and Israel are the good guys, according to the U.S. and Israel. So that takes care of that double standard there, but the independent verification on their claims goes unmentioned. Interesting. The Israeli military said earlier on Saturday that...
Yeah, here's Felix's take to this. Replies are all people going, you're reporting the Houthi-run ministry's claims? This is why I fucking hate you, as if they didn't phrase it in that way just to discredit them without making any specific charges. A level below threatening to kill an actor who plays a bad guy. I hate Professor Snape. I hate him. He's a bad guy. I hate that guy. If I catch him in the wild, I'll show him what. Alan Rickman, also based pro-Palestinian advocate, for the record. What is this? Yemeni military. The U.S. aircraft carrier Harry Truman has fled after being targeted by missiles from the Yemeni army, retreating 1,300 kilometers away from Yemen. This makes it difficult for it to launch a new aggression against Yemen. Lord Superb, would that be on 1970s Soviet-era missiles that have shorter range than an average firework you can buy from a toy shop? Your fucking country would not exist if it ever dared to stand up against the United States of America. Okay? You have nothing, Lord Superb. Get the fuck out of this conversation. See yourself out of this conversation. You personally engaged in one of the funniest acts of economic self-sabotage because you saw one too many Polish people at the pub. Shut the fuck up. An island filled to the brim with the dumbest people I've ever seen in my entire life. Fired by our third-gen era MiG-29 jets that were first made in the 1970s. Ooh, scary. Scary. What do you have? You got nothing. It makes it infinitely worse when you spell it out like this that like the American government and Operation Prosperity Guardian last time around failed spectacularly in spite of the diminished resources that the Yemeni government had. Okay? Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. You have nothing in your arsenal that would make me afraid. We will keep the baby killing until morale improves. How dare you? How dare you come after the Amazon shipments going into Israel? They too deserve to eat jellied eels, just like I do. Yes, my good sir. I assure you, the British Navy has the most advanced aircraft carrier in the universe. We just don't have F-35s in it. Yeah, none of that matters. You can't break the spirit of people, okay, that know that their cause is moral, okay? If their cause is anti-genocide, they're on the right side. I can't speak on their domestic affairs. That's not what I'm talking about right now. They're not fucking bombing Sanaa because of, I don't know, whatever mistreatment that they've perceived, let alone that wouldn't actually solve the domestic disputes regardless. The reason why they're bombing Sanaa is the same exact reason why they bombed southern Lebanon. Because they dare resist against Israel. They dare to act against a genocidal state in the region. That's it. Quite the statistic. The U.S. Navy has used more missiles for air defense, in air quotes, since combat operations against the Houthi naval blockade in the Red Sea off the Yemeni coast began in October 2023 than it used in all the years since Operation Desert Storm in the 1990s. In 15 months, the Navy fired more air defense missiles than it did in the last 30 fucking years. And they weren't able to stop. They were not able to stop the blockade. Okay? Sorry. Good luck convincing me. Good luck convincing me that this is a good idea, that this is the best idea. When the alternative is that the blockade did stop officially. When Israel did the ceasefire that was on the table for months. Yeah, Yemen is officially the poorest country on the planet. Yeah. These develop hydrogen fuel cell drones. These go thousands of miles. Very impressive. Okay, they didn't personally develop it. I'm fairly certain the New York Times article said they got it from China. Which, hey. Just saying. What is the sound peaking from the noise gate? My mom is using the blender. Do you think a war with Iran is coming in the next week or so? Yes. I think that the attacks against the Houthis are gearing up for some kind of attack against Iran potentially. And that is damaging. And I think Trump will learn that lesson the hard way, most likely. I've never seen this before. Israelis clip chimp on... Wait, what? We moved on? We moved on from this way too quickly? What exactly did he mean? Make American planes crash again. 2 dead in a small plane crash at Georgia's Covington Airport. That's so funny. Dude, wow. Wow. I guess Mehdi Hassan was saying like he wants 9/11 to happen every day. That's what it must have meant. Thank you, A.L. Yacobi, 22-year-old UPenn graduate, incoming MIT student, dedicated to combating anti-Americanism. Thank you for combating anti-Americanism. You're doing the dang thing.
That it had struck 3 militants in central Gaza who were...
Don't you think war against Iran could be good for Trump? Are you insane? Here's how this plays out. Donald Trump, the peaceful dove president, decides to go to war with Iran, okay, which is a nation state that is sovereign, all right? It's been outside of the American sphere of influence and been victim to sanctions for quite a while, but that has created a hardened shell outside of Iran in order to survive in spite of those sanctions with a network of collaborators, both in the region and also internationally, that are also outside of the sphere of American influence. This country has its own weapons programs. This country has its own standing military that are obviously also much better equipped in handling combat, right? Donald Trump goes in and starts bombing Iranian targets alongside the coalition forces in Israel, probably some British people too. They're all around the area, right? Iran's retaliation, depending on the severity of escalation from the allied forces in this regard, the real axis of evil here, Israel, America, England, and the like, is going to not be to, I don't know, activate sleeper cells in America or whatever. They're just going to take it directly to fucking Saudi Arabia, America's ally in the region. Saudi Arabia, the economic engine that fuels the world, quite literally, not just figuratively, but also quite literally. What are they going to do in that process? That's right. They're going to fucking blow up the oil refineries. And that's all it takes. Then the market obviously nosedives after that. All of a sudden, there is a major oil shock. It's basically worse than the Nixon oil embargo. It's literally worse. Complete global collapse. Complete global collapse. The entire market is ruined. World war. The problem is, I think Trump literally is stupid enough to do it and not foresee the inevitable results. A U.S. spy drone retreated from near Iranian airspace after encountering Iranian F-14 fighter jets and reconnaissance drones. Iran's Noor News quoted the country's Army Air Force as saying on Monday, Iran's armed forces remain on high alert, prepared for a full-scale defense and severe counterattack against enemy interests in the Middle East, Noor News said. Yeah. It's like having a direct loaded gun at the most valuable thing. No one, especially people in the Western world, cannot overcome an oil shock. Okay? Our entire industry, the global marketplace, the global economy runs on oil. It runs on petrodollars and it runs on oil. You fucking limit the amount of oil that's readily available because you burn the oil refineries and everything falls apart. And guess what? That process will not cause people to go, oh, wow, I can't believe Iran did this. How dare they do this? I suspect that there will be a lot of media interest in massaging the narrative in that direction, but most people will still be very upset at Donald Trump as well. He who can destroy a thing has the real control of it. Paul Atreides or some guy in the IRGC. Yeah. Dude. Oh, dude, if you think, by the way, for the record, if you think anti-Semitism is skyrocketing, and it is, wait till, oh my God, wait till the white nationalists get to fucking do propaganda about how young white American men are having to go out to the Middle East and dying for Israel. Holy fuck, dude. They already made that inference off of the Iraq War. That's like a very famous white nationalist perspective, is like the people who hate Muslims, but also simultaneously hate Jews, who are like, wow, we're in Iraq because of Israel, because of the Jews, right? Wait till that fucking, wait till you're directly in combat. American 18-year-olds from Arkansas are directly in fucking combat, getting their shit blown off, specifically because they had to defend Israel, because God forbid we tell Israel to stop doing a fucking genocide. Holy moly. What do you think happens in terms of anti-Semitism at that point? The front page of Vatani Emruz, a major conservative leading Iranian paper, features the headline, Nuclear Year, alongside an image of a nuclear explosion. The headline comes as U.S. President Donald Trump issued a warning to Iran on social media, accusing Tehran of orchestrating recent attacks by Yemen's Ansar Allah. Trump vows severe consequences for further aggression and directly linked the Houthis' actions to Iranian leadership. Meanwhile, Iran is reportedly ignoring Trump's recent diplomatic overtures to restart discussions on its rapidly advancing nuclear program. The Iranian supreme leader is reported to have said in a speech on March 12th, "When we know that America does not fulfill its commitments, why should we negotiate?" The U.S. president's announcement of his... What the fuck? I felt like an earthquake. The U.S. president's announcement of his readiness to negotiate with Iran is nothing but misleading public opinion. Why does Iran refuse to negotiate with America? Because this very president was the one who tore up the signed nuclear agreement. So how can we negotiate with him when we know he does not keep his promise? Anyway. Trey Inks, Fox News foreign correspondent, and one of the few mainstream media individuals that actually actively speaks about Palestinian journals, which is basically a re-examination of how dire the state of affairs truly is in American media, for the record. But he says, a lot of activity tonight across the Middle East. Renewed American strikes targeting the Houthis in Yemen. The Israelis are striking Syria. Intelligence points to Hamas preparing for a cross-border attack from Gaza. Come on, dude. U.S. reconnaissance drone spotted near Iran. Intelligence points to Hamas preparing a cross-border attack from Gaza. Come on, dude. Come on, big dog. They shut down the Strait of Hormuz before hitting any refineries. They sicked their attack dogs in Israel at the same time as... And the West would get stretched thin trying to respond to both of those things. There's a reason every war game simulation spells out loss for the U.S. versus Iran. Yeah. I'm just saying that is like their quote unquote nuclear option without actually having nukes. You don't think Hamas will start back up because Israel is dishonoring the agreement? I don't think that Hamas will fucking will do another October 7th style military operation, but who knows? But I doubt it. Start back up as in like start killing Israeli military members that are inside of Gaza? Yes, of course. The fuck? Will China come defend? No. No. China will not do that.
Were attempting to install explosive devices on the ground near Israeli soldiers. Officials in the Gaza Health Ministry did not respond to requests for comment. The steady drumbeat of Israeli strikes is a reminder that while Israel and Hamas have reached an agreement that paused most of the fighting in Gaza, a comprehensive truce is still nowhere in sight. In Lebanon, Israel is conducting a similar aerial campaign against the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah, a Hamas ally, during the U.S.-brokered ceasefire there, saying Israeli forces are attacking sites and operatives that have breached the agreement. So the exception to the rule of, quote, most of the fighting being paused in Gaza is the steady drumbeat of Israeli strike.
Tisha said, what do you think about spineless Papa Gut? And I don't even know what that is. What the fuck?
Why is the steady drumbeat of Israeli strikes not the focus of this article? What a poetic way to describe something that must certainly be in violation of a ceasefire, right? Steady drumbeat? The war in Gaza began after Hamas's deadly October 7th attack on southern Israel, which killed about 1,200 people, mostly civilians, according to Israel's government. About 250 others were taken back to Gaza as hostages. The New York Times, as most Western outlets do, choose to start the clock on this war war on October 7th of 2023. Did anything happen before that could have led to the conditions that may have led to such an attack? Or any other options explored, perhaps even nonviolent ones by the people who undertook it to alleviate said conditions? What happened in the preceding 70 years? Was there a brutal occupation and a repeated campaigns of ethnic cleansing, a medieval siege controlling everything that goes in and out of the Gaza Strip, repeated high-tech massacres of innocent civilians in Gaza, massacres Israel itself refers to as mowing the lawn? Is any of that relevant? Who knows? Definitely not the New York Times. Israel's subsequent military campaign against Hamas has killed more than 48,000 people, including thousands of children, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. The figures do not distinguish between civilians and combatants, and the Israeli military claims to have quote, eliminated nearly 20,000 Hamas operatives. So this is just straight up IDF propaganda right here. Weighing these claims against one another as even remotely comparable is IDF propaganda. There's no other way of putting it. The Israeli attacks in Gaza are characterized by an extremely high civilian casualty ratio in comparison with other armed conflicts in the last decades. As of January 2025, 15 months into the attacks, over 46,000 persons have been killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. Some 24,000 out of the 40,000 who have been identified are women, children, and older persons, making almost 59% of the identified fatalities. While the estimated number of combatants killed by the ISF varies, there is no doubt that civilians comprise the vast majority of the persons killed since the Israeli attacks began. According to a United States intelligence assessment from May 2024, Palestinian armed groups have lost 30 to 35% of their fighters in Gaza since October 2023. The commission therefore estimates the death toll of Hamas and other armed groups as between 6,000 and 14,000, given an estimated strength of about 20 to 40,000 militants prior to October 2023. One report estimated that 8,500 militants were killed. The ISF claimed in October 2024 that it had killed about 17,000 Hamas operatives and members of other armed groups. Given that the number of adult male fatalities since October 7th has been around 16,000, this would mean that the ISF considers all adult male Palestinians in Gaza to be members of armed groups and so legitimate targets. So even if the total number of male deaths were 16,000, 4,000 less than what the New York Times is so graciously quoting the IDF as saying, that still means that there are no innocent men in Gaza. The IDF has repeatedly egregiously lied about the ratios of combatants to civilians killed. The evidence we do have, far from being the most moral army in the world, it's like the least moral army in the world by a long shot, the army that committed and is currently committing genocide. That's another thing that goes completely unmentioned in this article is the whole genocide thing. Who cares about that though? That's just a bunch of independent human rights organizations. The only credible sources on the matter are the IDF, I guess. There's certainly no conflict of interest there in citing them. Israeli leaders say they will not end the war against Hamas until they topple the group's rule in Gaza and the territory no longer poses a threat to Israel. Hamas has shown some willingness to give up civilian governance in Gaza, but has drawn a red line on disbanding its battalions of armed fighters. How rude of them to refuse to disband their military capabilities. It's not like that's some recognized right under international law for an occupied group of people. Dicks. Israel and Hamas are supposed to be negotiating the next steps in the ceasefire agreement, which would involve a permanent end to the war, the release of the remaining living hostages, and a full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. Mediators, including the United States, Qatar, and Egypt, have made little headway so far, given the entrenched disagreements between the two sides. Yeah, entrenched disagreements. Both sides have those for sure. Could there be any valid reasons for disagreement among one of the two parties? Perhaps the violations of the ceasefire that you just spent an entire article describing. Could that have anything to do with these alleged disagreements from both sides? I legitimately cannot read the New York Times without getting really angry and writing a script about it. Israeli forces remain deployed in a buffer zone inside Gaza and along the Philadelphia corridor, which runs along Gaza's border with Egypt. Under the terms of the ceasefire, Israel was supposed to have withdrawn from the Philadelphia corridor by mid-March. Oh, that's good. Thanks for the heads up. So they also are violating the ceasefire in another way, on top of the steady drumbeat of attacks. Thanks for letting us know, I guess, at the very last sentence of the article. Really cool. So what do we notice from this article here. Overall, it's just a masterclass in manufacturing consent. The New York Times passively reports clear evidence of Israel's ceasefire violations while weighing them against Israel's unverifiable defenses with long histories of fabrication and falsehood. The New York Times offers a disgustingly passive and vague recounting of the numbers, names, and circumstances surrounding the Palestinian deaths. The death toll of over 150 Palestinians includes many children, such as Ahmad Abed, a 7-year-old Palestinian boy that was killed just days ago. Crucially, though, the article makes no mention of Israel's complete blockage on humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. On March 15th, the day that this article was published, Israel had completely blocked any entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Can you post a link to this video, please? Chat, what do we say? Look up. Look up at the top of the chat, and you will see the link to the video linked as the pinned chat. It is the pinned comment up there. Look up. That's right. It says gullible up there. Got 'em.
Gaza for over 2 weeks. 2 straight weeks of no food, no water, no supplies, no housing, a recent total halt on any electricity. All of these restrictions calculated to bring about the suffering and destruction of this group of people. And all of them in direct violation of the ceasefire agreement, international law, and the ICJ's provisional measures issued against Israel to prevent the crime of genocide from taking place. To the New York Times, none of this is important. The fact that 6 babies have frozen to death due to the harsh conditions, lack of fuel, and lack of housing, all a direct result of Israel's aid blockage, completely man-made deaths, all of that is unimportant to the New York Times. To end this video today, I want to turn briefly to the newspaper Haaretz. Haaretz is the Israeli paper of record, and Haaretz is weird because a lot of their coverage is as bad or worse than the New York Times in terms of caping for Israel's genocide, but of late their coverage has been quite direct and honest, much more than anything you'll see in the West. That isn't saying much, but let's just read to get an idea. Article headline: 9 killed in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, including journalists, Palestinian medics say. Right away, wow, okay, look at this. 9 killed in not just attacks, but Israeli airstrikes. They're naming the perpetrator. The victim include a claim made by the source of Palestinian medics. That's crazy. They didn't call them U.S. terrorist-designated Hamas-run health ministry operatives or whatever. They just said Palestinian medics. How refreshing. The IDF said it targeted a terrorist cell operating a drone that was threatening Israeli forces, while local media outlets in Gaza reported that the victims were journalists using a drone to film humanitarian aid. Even the simple choice of what order to place those sources and quotes in does something, right? Contrasting the IDF's claim with the many sources in Gaza with no conflict of interest, unlike the IDF, makes the summary of the situation a little more honest, I think. Israeli airstrikes in the Gaza Strip on Saturday killed at least 9 people, including 3 local journalists, according to Palestinian medics. The death toll represents the highest number of casualties in a single day since the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas began in January. The IDF said 2 of the victims were operating a drone.
Wait, what did he say? That guy said Hamas should put you in front of a firing squad? Is that what he said? Hamas should be put in front of a firing squad. Brother, we're currently watching something even more devastating just being put in front of a firing squad. Like, all Palestinians are Hamas, and they're all getting fucking blown to bits, including the journalist that Noah just mentioned. Like, what do you mean?
Drone that posed a threat to the soldiers. The other victims, according to the army's statement, were gathering the gear left over on the ground. They go on to
Hamas equals ISIS. No matter how hard you try to do this Israeli propaganda from the beginning, Israel is literally ISIS. Israel is both aligned with ISIS, and Israel, in its conflation of a religion, ISIS with Islam, Israel with Judaism, its destruction of cultural monuments, its destruction and lack of care or consideration for a civilian population is unironically exactly like ISIS. Okay? A militant resistance group against an apartheid state that is doing a genocide is not closer to ISIS. A violent settler colony that is doing an apartheid and also conducting a genocide is infinitely closer to ISIS. But yeah, keep doing this. I'm sure people will believe you eventually. So much propaganda here. USA, so much propaganda here. USA attacked Yemen again. Stage 1 is over and there's no agreement on stage 2. Facts. Womp womp. Human shield. Well, Jewish students that you called inbreds were attacked on campus, so Jewish students that are called inbreds. It is pretty funny that these guys just like live in a fantasy world. I've never called Jewish students inbreds or Jews inbreds in general. I call the KKK inbred in the same way that I call the Jewish KKK, violent, rabid, right-wing, ultra-nationalist settlers, inbred. Okay? That's it. You can perhaps lying about this and saying that I claim that all Jews are inbred will make you feel better. You know what I mean? Oh, this is the same guy from that. Did you see the Asman Gold response? Why you always talk about Asman? Yeah, Hamas has literally fought ISIS. Israel, on the other hand, has not. Israel has actually apologized for accidentally striking ISIS soldiers and has offered them logistical support and also medical support. You can look this up. You can find this information if you would like to. But hey, as is the case, I will always use a bottom of the barrel troll to educate the masses. But I saw multiple once again clips of you saying the word inbred with no context, so it must be true. Yeah. That argument isn't valid. You have Palestinians/Arabs agree with Israeli actions. Wait, what? That's amazing. Yeah. Palestinians fucking love getting killed by Israeli bombs. Like, they love it. They're like, please, more of this.
Quote, the IDF's miraculous revelation that every single person that they killed, including the multiple journalists, were actually covert, undercover terrorist operatives. It's far from the first time they've had such miraculous revelation.
Hey, my boy, he made it too. Shouts out.
Post-journalist murdering. The Palestinian Journalist Protection Center in Gaza said that the victims were journalists using a drone to film humanitarian aid. The organization said in a statement that the targeting of journalists prevents the world from being exposed to the truth about what is happening in Gaza, and called on the international community to condemn attacks on journalists. This assault constitutes a war crime that violates press freedom and endangers media and aid workers, they added. More journalists have been slaughtered in Gaza over the course of the last 17 months than any conflict in modern history. This is just another chart in the long graph of such murders. And on top of there being a righteous call to condemn such actions, is the repeated cowardice of journalists from places like the New York Times for staying completely silent on what's happening, for being willing to publish articles that normalize Israel's war crimes and genocide, while the people of their own profession are being cut down, murdered repeatedly with their families.
Yeah, one of the few journalists in the Western world that has actively spoken out against Israel's crimes against journalism is fucking Fox News international correspondent Trey Yingst. That's how insane this is.
They can watch this happen.
He's not exactly a fan of Palestinians or Hamas either. He's just like, even he's like, dude, this is completely unacceptable.
And still report on the very murders of the people that are in their profession, while immediately sharing the murderer's side of the story. It's just despicable and cowardly, and every journalist that works for the New York Times should be ashamed. Hamas said in a statement that the deliberate killing and barbaric attacks once again confirm Israel's intention to undermine the ceasefire agreement and its deliberate sabotage at every opportunity. Hamas spokesman Hazem Qasim added that Israel's attack on journalists and humanitarian workers violates the ceasefire agreement. Referring to Israel as the occupation, he said that Israel deliberately targeted humanitarian aid workers seeking to worsen the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and push the population towards famine following the tightening of its blockade on border crossings and obstructing entry of all aid. So the only time in both of these articles we get any mention of the aid blockages, which are also a ceasefire violation, are when Haaretz does the brave, bold choice of quoting the other side. Haaretz is Hamas now, I guess. I'm sure that's that's probably that. I'm going to look that up and show screenshots. I know that they're saying that probably. The Indonesian hospital said it received 8 bodies from 2 airstrikes in the same area of the northern town of Beit Lahia on Saturday. Fares Awad, head of emergency services in northern Gaza, identified one of the dead as Mahmoud Islim, a local reporter who was operating a drone. Several were critically wounded as the strike hit a car with casualties inside and outside the vehicle, the medics added. Witnesses and fellow journalists said the people in the car were on a mission for a charity called Al Khair Foundation in Beit Lahia, and they were accompanied by journalists and photographers when the strike hit them. So hopefully in reading both of those articles, we can see both the New York Times' disgusting passivity and normalization through their repeated citation of the IDF's own defenses as essentially fact, versus the modicum of integrity that we get from Haaretz in this specific instance, with their willingness to critically analyze the sources of their information and not do, IDF PR. Ultimately, neither of these outlets were willing to show imagery of what took place. And when you see the faces of the children that Israel has slaughtered during this quote-unquote ceasefire, or when you see the carnage inflicted upon the group of journalists trying to simply gather evidence of the starvation of their people for which they were executed, it tells a slightly more in-depth story than 9 killed. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Just a short one. Sources are linked below. I made a post on my community tab about it, but